If you are facing injustice, slander, persecution, or simply feel like something is holding you back in life, then you needs watch this video until the end. What I'm going to show you here can change everything. And that's not an exaggeration. It's a spiritual key that's right in front of you, but that most people ignore, Psalm 35. And it's not just to read by reading. It is praying with intention, with strategy, with faith. It is transforming this psalm into a true war prayer, like a cry straight to heaven asking, Lord, arise and fight for me. Many people are constantly being beaten by the enemy because they haven't yet understood the power they have when they open their mouths to pray, especially in the morning. While the world is waking up, you may already be activating the heavens and disarming the plans of hell. And yes, there are people trying to bring you down, slow you down, steal what's yours. There's a battle going on, and you don't even know it. But starting today, that will change. You will understand step by step how to use Psalm 35 as a spiritual weapon, how to position your faith, how to pray with authority, and most importantly, how to see spiritual enemies fall one by one before you. That's exactly what you'll learn here. And if you apply it, get ready because big things will happen. You won't leave this video the same way you came in. Now take a deep breath and pay attention, because it is serious. Now you understand that Psalm 35 is not just a text from the Bible, is a real weapon against everything that tries to stop you. After applying this, you will begin to see change where you once saw only struggle, justice where there was only oppression, and victory where it seemed impossible. And since this truth has opened your eyes, make this reach more people. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is how you help others experience the same transformation that's beginning in your life now. This is just the beginning. The next video will show you what to do when the answer starts to arrive. Now that you understand the real power of Psalm 35 and see that it is not just a pretty prayer, but a true declaration of spiritual warfare, the next thing you need to know is why praying first thing in the morning makes such a difference. And no, this isn't superstition, it's not empty ritual, nor is it religious obligation. It's strategy, spiritual strategy. And if you've never stopped to think about it, then pay attention, because it could become a powerful key in your life. Imagine that every day when you wake up, there's a battlefield forming around you. Only this battlefield isn't physical, it's invisible, it's in the spiritual world. And before you even brush your teeth, things are already being orchestrated against you. People talking badly about you behind your back, decisions being made that will affect your day, opportunities being fought for, situations arising to test your patience, your faith, and even your dignity. And the question that remains is, will you start the day completely exposed, or will you wake up surrounded by God's protection? Will you let the enemy dictate the course of your morning, or will you stand with spiritual authority and pave the way with prayer? This is where the power of starting your day with Psalm 35 comes in, because it's not just any prayer. It rips through the heavens, asking God Himself to rise up on your behalf, to confound your enemies, to undo hidden plans, to scatter those who seek to harm you. When you pray this first thing in the morning, you're not reacting to problems. You're anticipating, arming yourself, positioning yourself spiritually before situations even arise. And that difference changes everything. I know many people have difficulty creating the habit of praying in the morning. Oh, but I'm tired. I'm always late. I don't have time. I can't concentrate properly at this time. That may be true, but I'll tell you something harsh. While you're distracted by this, the enemy doesn't sleep on the job. He uses your distraction, your laziness, your discouragement as an opening. And that's why you live in cycles that repeat themselves. You start the week excited. By Wednesday, you're already exhausted. By Friday, you're frustrated. Sunday, you feel that weight on your chest. Sound familiar? But when you start praying Psalm 35 at the beginning of your day, with faith and purpose, even your emotional state changes. You stop waking up hostage to anxiety and start getting up with direction. It's as if you're saying, not today, hell has no place here today. And that's not just lip service. It's reality for those who practice it. And then you realize it's not about praying a long, beautiful prayer, or one full of difficult words. It's about opening your mouth with authority, even with the hoarse voice of someone who just woke up, and saying, "Arise, O Lord, and contend with those who contend with me." There you go. That alone moves the spiritual world. That alone changes the environment. That already puts heaven on your side. And you know what else happens when you pray like this in the morning? You start to notice that situations that would normally get you worked up don't hit you as hard anymore. People who used to provoke you lose their strength. Environments that used to oppress you feel lighter. You start to walk with more confidence. And why? Because you already know that you are not alone. You've already put God first. And that changes your posture, your energy, your clarity. Even your productivity improves. You can see that. Many people ask me, but I can pray Psalm 35 at any time, right? Of course you can, but there's something special about first hour of the day. The first hour is like a seed, and the way you plant that seed determines the kind of harvest you'll reap. When you consecrate the beginning of your day to the Lord, everything that follows falls under that covering. It's like anointing your routine with purpose. And if you still doubt, try it for 7 days straight. Wake up, set aside 10 minutes and pray Psalm 35 with faith. But pray truly, with your heart, and then come back here and tell me what happened in the comments. I want you to comment on the word, positioning, because that's exactly what you're going to start experiencing. A new spiritual, emotional, and even physical positioning. Now, pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because here comes a part that few people notice but which makes all the difference. There's something special about putting Psalm 35 in your mouth before anything else enters your ears. Before bad news, before problems, before your cell phone, before your schedule, before demands, you plant the word. You declare who's in charge of your day. And this shapes your mind, creating a spiritual fortress where fear and insecurity have no place. You begin to walk with a different conviction, and people notice, the environment notices, even your enemies notice. And then, without you having to argue, without you having to defend yourself, things start to fall into place. Now, there's one detail you need to understand before taking the next step, something many people overlook and therefore fail to maintain a firm posture throughout the day. Something that happened after that you pray for, and that, if you don't know how to handle it, can undo everything you did this morning. I'll show you what it is, how it works, and why it's so subtle yet so dangerous. Because knowing how to pray is one thing. Now know how to keep your prayer standing, even when everything seems to want to throw you off balance. That's another story. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Now that you understand the importance of starting your day with Psalm 35 and realize that praying in the morning is not just a religious practice, but a strategic move against everything that tries to harm you throughout the day, there is one thing you need to face head-on. This war is invisible, but it is real. And those who don't understand this live as if everything were normal, when in fact they're being sabotaged by forces they can't see, but which act every day. And the worst part, many people have become accustomed to this as if living oppressed, tired, stuck and without direction was something natural. But it's not. This is a reflection of a spiritual battle taking place, and Psalm 35 is a direct cry to heaven for God to enter this fight on your behalf. Look. The text begins with David asking, "Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me." This shows that he knew very well that he was under attack, but he also knew who he should speak to in order to defend himself. David didn't take matters into his own hands. He didn't argue, nor did he try to resolve matters with human intelligence. He went directly to God, as if to say, "I recognize the war, but I know that I'm not the one who has to fight alone." And that's exactly where many people go wrong today. They try to overcome spiritual problems with natural tools. They try to confront gossip with explanations, envy with sympathy, emotional attacks with motivational phrases, and then get frustrated when nothing changes. But when you enter God's presence with a psalm like this, the battle changes levels. The enemy is no longer just dealing with you. He now has to deal with God. Now, there's something here that few people realize. Psalm 35 isn't just about obvious enemies. It's not just about that person who spoke ill of you, the unfair boss, the relative who despises you, or the false friend. It goes much further. It's about hidden enemies, those who operate in the shadows, who set traps you never saw, who plot your downfall without you having done anything. And you know what's more serious? Sometimes the enemy isn't even outside. It's inside. Fear, doubt, anger, pride. All of these are enemies too, and all of these can also be holding you back. That's why this psalm is so powerful, because it places God in command of the war. It places the Lord as judge and warrior at the same time. It's a cry from someone who's tired of fighting with their own strength and has decided to hand the case over to the one who can truly deliver justice. And justice here isn't just revenge, as many think. Justice is God undoing traps, revealing intentions, protecting your mind, restoring your dignity. Justice is God exposing what was hidden, unmasking those who seem to be on your side, and most importantly, getting you out of here before the worst happens. Some people only discover they were being attacked after they've already lost something: a job, a relationship, an opportunity, peace. But those who pray with discernment, who use Psalm 35 as spiritual covering, are often spared before the blow even comes. And you won't see it with your eyes, but you will feel it. You will realize that something has been avoided. You will feel lightness, clarity, security. You will see that what once affected you deeply no longer has any power. This is God in action. This is the result of praying with understanding. And here's an important point. You don't need to feel anything during prayer to know it's working. This isn't about emotion, it's about faith. Psalm 35 is like a decree in the spiritual world. You speak, and God acts. It may seem like nothing is happening, but behind the scenes, in the unseen, things are being stirred. Enemies are being confounded. Plans are being broken. And perhaps you've experienced this and didn't even realize it was an answer to prayer. So, comment below. Battle. So I know that you are committed to this process, that you understand what is at stake, and that you have already started to position yourself spiritually. And sure, maybe you're thinking, okay, I pray, but I still feel attacked, tired, overwhelmed, and nothing seems to change. And I understand. The truth is, oftentimes resistance increases, precisely because after of prayer, it's as if the enemy feels he's lost territory and tries to push you back to where you were. And that's where the next point comes in that most people ignore: how to maintain your posture, even when it seems like the attack has gotten worse, because praying is just the beginning. Staying upright during war is the real challenge. And that's exactly what you'll understand in the next step. You understand that the battle is real, and that Psalm 35 puts God at the center of the war for you. But now comes a part that many people overlook. It's not enough to just pray, you need to stand your ground after prayer. And this is where most people fall, because the enemy doesn't give up easily. He will test your steadfastness. He will try to shake your faith. He will poke at your weaknesses, provoke you with difficult people, with situations that seem unchanging, with that feeling of, I prayed, but nothing happened. But therein lies the secret. What determines victory? It's not just the prayer, it's the posture you maintain after it. The person who prays with faith but leaves complaining, doubting, murmuring, or living as if nothing has changed is essentially undoing what they just declared before God. It's like someone who hands a case over to a lawyer and then tries to resolve it alone, rushing the process. Prayer is the moment when you ascend to the heights, but remaining in faith is what sustains you there. And this requires spiritual maturity. It requires awareness of what you declared in the invisible world and a firm decision not to back down. Many people think that by praying Psalm 35, the heavens will immediately open, enemies will vanish into thin air, and problems will evaporate. But the reality is that God often begins to act first inside you, before acting on the surroundings. And this bothers. Why? Because prayer begins to expose what needs to be adjusted. The pressure increases. People move away. Situations get tight. Not because you're doing something wrong, but precisely because is doing something right. The light you carry begins to disturb those living in the shadows. The authority you're building begins to break invisible chains. And then comes doubt, fear, and emotional exhaustion. And here comes the most serious point. Either you retreat or you advance in silence. This is where what many of the great men and women of prayer have learned painfully comes in. After prayer, silence is a powerful weapon. You don't need to go around explaining to everyone that you prayed, that you're waiting for an answer, that God will bring justice. Be quiet. Maintain your confidence. Act as if you already know victory is certain, even if the situation still seems chaotic, because this is the kind of faith that moves heaven, the faith that remains even without applause, even without a sign, even without an immediate response. You'll notice that after praying Psalm 35 frequently, Your spirit becomes more sensitive. You begin to notice when a trap is being set. You begin to discern the mood in a room. You sense when a conversation isn't just a conversation, when a friendship isn't so innocent, when a compliment carries poison. This is spiritual maturity being activated within you. It's as if God begins to show you behind the scenes of the war, and the more you see, the less you react with despair. You no longer get into arguments for nothing. You no longer waste time defending yourself. You've come to understand that there are things that it's not personal, it's spiritual. And this discernment only comes to those who maintain their posture after prayer, to those who pray not just to release guilt, but to declare their position. Because Psalm 35 wasn't written for those seeking emotional relief. It was written for warriors, for those who understand that there is a war going on and that prayer is the basis of resistance. But victory truly comes to those who remains, even when the ground seems to shake. And then when everything around you tries to push you to give up, to complain, to doubt, you choose to remain standing, quiet, firm, at peace, because you've already placed yourself in God's hands, and you trust. And look, comment here, remain, so I know you understand the depth of this, that you're not here out of curiosity, but because you want to experience something real, that you don't just want to pray, but also position yourself as someone who understands the weight of the spiritual world. Now something starts to happen when you maintain this firm stance, even in the face of chaos, something that takes everyone by surprise, including you, because it's not just the enemy who watches you after prayer. God is also watching you. And the way he responds to your steadfastness is something that goes far beyond what you're expecting, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Now that you understand that it's no use just praying, you need to maintain a firm stance even when everything tries to destabilize you. It's time to find out what happens when God really decides to act for you. Because yes, he acts. And when he acts, no one can hold. But the way he works isn't how we imagine. It's not loud. It's not with spotlights. It's not always with grand signs. Often God begins to move so quietly and strategically that you only notice it later, when you look back and think, wow, that was deliverance. That was the hand of God. And it all began with a prayer that you might not have felt much at the time, but which was offered in faith. Psalm 35 is clear. It talks about the angel of the Lord being sent to pursue and disperse the enemies. In other words, it's not you who runs after the fight, it's heaven that moves. God sends his angels before you. And when that happens, things disappear from your path without explanation. People walk away out of nowhere. Invitations fall through. Doors you even wanted to open, but they close because God saw what you hadn't yet seen. He was protecting you from something that would slow you down, hurt you, embarrass you. This is what happens when you pray with faith and remain steadfast. God steps in front, heaven moves, and hell retreats. But here comes a detail that many people forget. Angels only move when there is order from heaven, and this order is released when there is a positioning in the Spirit. God acts when he sees that your faith is genuine. He responds when he sees that you surrendered, trusted, and stood, even when everything told you to fall. And the most impressive thing is that sometimes God doesn't just drive away the enemy, he exposes them. He shows who was really against you, who was plotting behind your back, who was smiling on the outside but stabbing you on the inside. And he doesn't show you so you can get revenge. He shows you so you can free yourself. Now imagine this happening in your life. People you thought were trustworthy are revealed. Situations that were draining, you are removed from your path. Environments that previously made you sick are cleansed and purified. You begin to walk lighter, more lucid, more focused. And all this because you activated something powerful in the spiritual world, the direct intervention of God through prayer. And then you understand that not every attack needs a response, that not every provocation deserves your attention. Because those who are being defended by God, you don't need to explain yourself, justify yourself, or prove anything to anyone. You just need to keep praying and trusting. And of course, there's one thing that will happen to you on this journey. Your spiritual sensitivity will increase, and once that starts, there's no turning back. You can feel when the atmosphere is tense, when something's wrong, when people are pretending to be something they're not. And that's not paranoia. It's not judgment. It's discernment. This discernment is a gift from God to those who seek to live in truth. It's a way for the Holy Spirit to guide you, and He begins to show you that there are battles you can only win in silence, but there are others that you only win in constant prayer. And the more you pray, the more you learn to differentiate one thing from another. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter and start focusing on what really changes your story. You learn that God's presence, it's not just consolation, it's strategy. That prayer is not just to soothe the soul, it is to win battles that the eyes cannot see. And at that point you will begin to notice something that seems simple but changes everything. God's presence becomes so real in your routine that you can no longer start the day without it, because you feel it, you know it. What was once just a just because prayer has now become your foundation, your control tower, your shield. You wake up and already know, today I will not leave without speaking to my Father, without reciting Psalm 35, without activating the heavens. And this transforms not only your day, but your attitude in the world. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt this way. Comment the word here, protection, so I know you understand this principle and that you are consciously placing yourself under God's covering, because that's exactly what's happening. God is teaching you to walk under His protection and no longer exposed to the attacks of the world. And of course, now that you've begun to understand how heaven works when you pray with faith and remain steadfast, there's something no one tells you but which you need to know. Something that can ruin everything, even after you've prayed, even after you've trusted, even after you've received deliverance. Something subtle, almost invisible, that seems harmless. But that opens a huge breach in the spiritual world, and that's what we'll talk about in the next point. By now you've understood that prayer with faith, especially in the morning, changes the environment, moves the heavens, drives away enemies, and opens a path where previously seemed impossible. You've also seen that maintaining a firm posture after prayer is what sustains everything, and that when you remain under God's covering, angels spring into action, opposing plans are undone, and spiritual discernment begins to manifest in your life. But there's something that needs to be made very clear now. Not everyone will be able to walk alongside you after you activate this new phase, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's part of the journey of those who decide to live a deeper life with God, because what will happen naturally is that your connections begin to change. People who once surrounded you will begin to drift away, some because they're uncomfortable with your light, others because they can no longer manipulate you, and some simply because they no longer fit into your new frequency. This can hurt. It can cause confusion. You may even think you're losing friendships, relationships, alliances, but in reality you are being preserved. God begins to clear the way. He doesn't remove it out of malice. He removes it for protection. He removes what is a distraction. He removes what was holding you back, and you didn't even realize it. He removes what weakened you spiritually in subtle ways, in details, in conversations, in habits. And this is where many people stumble. They try to maintain ties with people who are no longer part of the season God has prepared. They try to force connections with those who don't want to grow, with those who don't respect their faith, with those who mock their journey. And this drains, it exhausts, it takes you back to places God has already taken you from. Therefore, one of the most important things you need to understand is that praying Psalm 35 is also an act of courage, because He doesn't just protect you, He positions you. And when you take a stand, not everyone will accept it maturely. Some will criticize you, others will judge you. They'll say you've changed, that you're strange, radical, distant. But what they don't know is that it is not far away. It is saved. You're prioritizing your peace, your emotional health, your spiritual clarity. And that has a price. But it also has a reward. Because when you choose to walk with God, you give up trying to please everyone. And the reward is that you begin to attract what truly builds you. You begin to connect with people who add value, who respect your faith, who pray for you in silence, who celebrate your victory, who don't compete with you, who don't use you. This is building new bonds, bonds that come from God. And these bonds only appear after you close the right doors. But of course, this doesn't happen overnight. There's a time between losing what was toxic and receiving what is true. And this time is dangerous, because it's in this interval that the enemy tries to make you retreat. It's then that he whispers thoughts of loneliness, rejection. Nobody understands me. Nobody values me. Maybe I'm overreacting. But no, you're not overreacting, you're just being separated. Set apart for something greater. Set apart to live promises that many don't even believe. And this process hurts, but it also strengthens. Because it's in this process that you grow, it's in this process that you mature. It's in this process that you learn to depend completely on God. Comment here, growth. If you've ever felt this separation happening in your life, if you notice that certain people have drifted away for no reason, that you're more selective, more careful, and that this has brought you closer to God, it's important to recognize this process. This validates what God is building in you. And do you know what the end result of all this is? You begin to walk with more authority, not the kind of authority that shouts, that imposes, that wants to show off, but the authority that comes from intimacy with God, that comes from obedience, from constancy, from silence. And then you realize that you don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore, because God's very presence within you begins to speak for itself. People feel it. The environment feels it. Even those who don't believe feel it. And that's where the strongest point of all comes in. The loneliness you felt was not a punishment. It was a preparation. It was in this silence that God shaped you. It was in this emptiness that He filled you. It was in this separation that He positioned you. And now you no longer walk alone. You walk with purpose, with discernment, with a peace the world doesn't understand. And that, my friend, is the true sign that you're ready to live the promise. But before you get there, there's one last piece that needs to fit together, a key that will help you maintain everything you've built so far, even on days when your faith is wavering, because there's a trap that still needs to be overcome, and that's what we'll talk about next. Now that you understand why so much began to change after you decided to pray with purpose, move away from what weakens you, and position yourself spiritually, it's clear how much this content helped open your eyes. Your mind is clearer, your spirit stronger, and your journey is no longer automatic. And if this did you good, helped you see what was hidden, then it makes sense that more people have access to this same direction. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment here. Positioned, because that's what you're becoming. A person who knows where they stand, who they're with, and who's truly fighting for you. And prepare your heart, because the next video will reveal exactly what else might be undermining your prayer without you realizing it, and what to do to prevent it from destroying everything you've started building today. Trust me, this next part is what holds your entire spiritual structure together.